what is foreclosure in this circumstance? And how long do I need to have been in default for in order? I really want to know about foreclosures, and I think it's really, really important. I mean, I want to give a scenario. We have, Joe and Sarah. Joe, a couple of years ago, took out a loan when he started working, or he took out a credit with a clothing provider, for example. And he was paying it well because, that was one or two of the debts that he had. Mm-hmm. Paying it well, going along nicely. After 3 or 4 years, he has a baby now. So now his expenses are now being redirected. So he decides, I've been paying this store for like 3-4 years now. I've been a good payer. I think I'm okay with regards to my credit status. He stops paying them and he focuses on child. And then he decides he's going to get married. Mm-hmm. And he decides, lovely, I'm getting married to Mary, and they have a good time on that weekend. They are wearing 2-piece together, 2x2. They're there singing Brenda Fassie. It's a wedding day. It's a wedding day.
Yeah.
But because he married a clever lady, she says to him on the Monday, listen, I've made an appointment with the home loan department at the bank because I just need to know, because you are working, I'm working, how much can we afford to be able to get a home loan? Because I don't want to live in your mother's bedroom forever. Let's go and look into a home loan. So we want to know how much we qualify for. Mm. Now, when they get to the bank, the home loan consultant says, unfortunately, you guys don't qualify for a loan because you, sir, have been blacklisted. Oops. Mm-hmm. Sir could really ask the earth just to open up and swallow him whole, because he knows that it was a debt that he decided to, blue tick some years ago, right? That he didn't do. He didn't act upon it. He didn't continue to pay that debt. Yeah. He just left it to, die. But it never did, because you've already taught us that debts don't die. They don't go away. They just stay in your name. So this thing has now met him in his marriage. Now it's affecting his partner as well. And it's affecting his ability to actually move on in life and get a home loan so that he can provide for his family, right? Yeah. Now he feels like, he could be singing now, too late for mama at this point. So how then can the couple tackle this thing, right? Before we talk about when he actually gets the loan, let's talk about now, how can he fix this, including fixing his marriage at this point? How can he fix it in order for him to rehabilitate himself to get back to being a good credit record?
Yeah. So as I said previously, the only option is for him to rectify by paying.
Okay.
So that debt that is remaining on his credit profile, if, for example, as we had mentioned earlier, that there are exceptions when a debt has prescribed,
right,
then the debt would be removed from the credit bureau. Or the creditor can even provide him with the letter to say, well, this debt has prescribed. He sends it to the credit bureau. They wipe it off.
Okay.
But if it's not a debt that's prescribed, the only way he can fix it, or the only way he can remove his name from the bureau, is by him paying up that debt.
Okay.
Or the wife can just, if she qualifies on her own, she can just buy that property. It will be in her name, and he'll be the roommate.
You'll be the roommate. Okay, so let's then talk about foreclosures. Let's say now they eventually he pays that debt off, because now his wife is on his back. He pays that debt, right? And now they do qualify together to purchase this house, and they are moving in. It's beautiful. It's lovely. Now they get triplets, okay? And now the expenses are now more. There's school to be paid for. There's all sorts of other things in the house to be paid for. There's this home loan. They have 2 cars. There's 2 other loans that they have. So now debt is rising in the household.
Yeah.
And now they are at a point where they are struggling to pay for the home loan itself.
Yeah.
And they're at a point where they are not just struggling, they're just not paying for it anymore because all the other debit orders are eating up the salaries. What is foreclosure in this circumstance? And how long do I need to have been in default for in order to be considered that
there's
foreclosure process?
Okay, so foreclosure is the legal process that a financial institution and 9 times out of 10 mostly banks would follow to take back or to repossess the asset, which is the house.
Because you took it under secured loan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the process they would follow to take back the house due to your failure now to pay your home loan.
Okay.
So that is what foreclosure is.
Okay.
Now, how long? It's all these debts, even the unsecured that we were discussing earlier, are under the banner of the National Credit Act.
Okay.
So it's the initial stages are the same where you start receiving calls.
Yep.
And if you're 90 days plus in arrears, then they issue you with the Section 129 notice informing you of your options. And then they institute summons. Now, the foreclosure process is different in this sense. So we discussed summons, that it can be served under a rock, wherever, as long as it's on the premises. That were agreed upon. And once summons is served, judgment is obtained. So let's say they don't, similar to the other ones, they don't defend it. Let's say they're not aware of it. Let's say they actually, because they can't pay this house, they decided to move out or move back home and rent out this house just so that they can get extra income.
Okay.
So there are other people living in this house. Let's use that scenario.
Yeah.
Now, so they don't get the summons. Judgment is obtained against them for the monetary value. Now, with bonds, and this is where if you read, we need to read our document. So if you read your bond document, your bond agreement, there's an acceleration clause there.
Okay.
What this means is that if the house is worth $1 million, or I've bought it for R1 million, or my outstanding balance is R1 million, my arrears are only 30,000. The bank is not suing you for 30,000. They are suing you for the R1 million.
Really?
Yes. Because there's an acceleration clause which simply states that should you fall into arrears, you become liable for the full outstanding debt.
I see. Okay.
Because remember the end game, which believe it or not, banks don't want.
Okay.
The end game is that should you be unable to pay this judgment that I've obtained, I need to sell your house.
Yes.
Now, if I'm going for judgment for 30,000, I'm not gonna sell a R1 million house
for
because someone owes me 30,000.
Okay.
Right? So that's why they go for the full balance. So let's say they obtain judgment.
Okay.
Right? They obtain judgment. I'm just going to use this one example because there are many ways they can obtain judgment.
Okay.
Can be full judgment, can be monetary judgment, but for educational purposes, I'll use monetary judgment.
Right.
Which means that they obtain, the R1 million judgment noted now. The next step that the bank will take is that they will issue a warrant. Now, when we talk on warrants, we think warrant of arrest.
Of arrest.
This is a warrant of execution.
Right.
For movable property.
Okay.
So remember, the house itself is the immovable property.
Correct.
But movable property will be your furniture inside. To say, okay, yes, I've got judgment for R1 million. The arrears are around 30,000. Let's see whether the furniture in the house can expunge the 30,000 arrears and the debtor can start again.
Okay.
Right. Generally, no, because you may have a sofa that is worth 40,000, but remember it's going to be sold at auction.
Correct.
So chances are it will go for like 15,000. So generally, you get what we call a nulla bona return, which
what's that?
It basically means there isn't enough property within the premises to satisfy the judgment debt.
Okay.
Right. this is where the change now, this is where our law has changed. So after that, okay, he doesn't have movable property, we have to go for the house.
Okay.
Now, in going for the house, they institute what they call a Rule 46A application. So it's an application to declare the immovable property executable.
Okay.
Which basically means the bank wants the court to grant them an order allowing them to sell the house.
Oh.
Right. Now, the law has changed tremendously. As far back, I think, as recently as 2018, where the capital A came in. What this means. Okay, before what it means, let me tell you how it used to go. The properties used to be sold for 100 Rand, 10 Rand, people's houses. You owe $1 million, bank sells it at auction for 10 Rand. And now you still owe 990,000 on the property.
Yeah. So the debt didn't go away.
No, the debt didn't go away. So
regardless
it
of how much they sell it at auction, your debt doesn't go away. It's just the bank recovering for its own risk that it took on this R1 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what the courts did then, okay, before the amount, what the example we're talking of, these guys didn't receive these documents because they moved out of the premises.
Yes.
Whilst we said earlier that, it's your duty to inform the bank that you have moved, etc. You can't escape, in terms of our law as well, you can't escape the fact that these are people's homes. And the right of access to housing is covered in the Constitution.
Correct.
Right. So by selling their home, you're actually taking away a constitutional right.
Correct.
And you can't just do that arbitrarily, and you can't just do that without them knowing.
Okay.
So what the courts did is that at this stage of the legal process, which is different from all the other legal processes we discussed,
yes,
when you are applying now to have the house declared executable, you have to show that you have personally served that application on the debtor.
On the actual person, and not just at the premises or under the rock, on the actual individual.
Yeah, it has to be personal service.
Okay.
And this is in instances where the debtor also shows that this is their primary or only residence. Because you are then depriving them of their right to access to housing. Right. So if it's not a primary residence, where you have 3 properties, you are defaulting on this one, you have 2 other properties to fall back on.
Correct.
But this one, with primary residence, it has to be served personally on them.
Okay.
And further, now to take away from houses being sold for 10 Rand, 100 Rand, the courts have also, or this rule, this is also in terms of the uniform rules of court. This rule has also included a clause where a court has to consider setting a reserve price.
Okay.
That is an amount where it says the sheriff who sells the house must not sell it for less than this amount. So if your house, you owe R1 million, let's say your house is valued at 800,000, but you have to take into consideration there are rates and taxes that are owing probably if you're not paying your bond. There's, there are a lot of circumstances. The court may say, okay, don't sell this house for less than 700,000.
Okay.
Right. And at auction, the bidding will start at 700,000.
So that you can be able to now, after they've sold it, not owe as much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fair. It's to cover. Yeah, it's to cover individuals, because individuals become indebted for life, or they become in debt for life because a house was sold for 10 Rand. The bank unsold the house maybe for 500,000, you still owe the balance.
You still owe the bank. Okay.
And the converse also applies. If they sell it for more, the profits or the surplus comes back to you.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's even better, actually. Oh, okay. And then, so on foreclosure, as we close this part, how long then does the defaulter have to vacate the premises? Like, let's say now they are selling the house and you are being evicted, basically.
You have until the sale goes through.
Okay.
So it's sold at auction.
Yeah.
It's a sheriff's auction. It's usually referred to as a sale in execution.
Okay.
That is because it's an execution of the judgment that was granted in court.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
So once the sheriff bangs his gavel, the transferring documents are signed, then you are no longer the owner of the property.
You need to move out.
Yeah. But you find in most instances where it's families who live there, they just simply refuse. And our law protects everyone. So if a person has refused to move out, the new owner has to launch an application in court
for eviction.
To evict, yeah, because it's we call it the PI Act,
yes.
the Prevention of Illegal Eviction,
right,
and Unlawful Occupiers Act.
Okay.
So we see a lot. I mean, where they take matters into their own hands and they evict them physically, but it's similar to mob justice.
Yeah,
it's not allowed. You have to do it through the law.
Okay.
So
understood.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's a short point that I wanted to make. Remember when we were discussing what the options are that are available if you can't pay, and I kept on saying call your creditor, etc. Even with home loans, home loans are even, banks have, all our banks in South Africa actually, they have so many programs and they have so many solutions to debtors who aren't able to service their bonds.
Okay.
Remember, a home loan is a 20-year bond, 20 or 30-year bond.
Yeah.
So, and there are times when you are in year 15 and things just go bad. You know, you're almost done, you know. Or there are times where you're just at the beginning, but you've got this whole relationship that you want to embark on with the bank. So banks have a lot of options, including payment arrangements that are available. There are restructure agreements in some instances. I know during COVID, a lot of debtors would have received a restructuring of their loans from the banks. They also, remember I said that this is an auction, a sheriff's sale.
Yes.
Banks also have options where you can actually sell your house privately,
okay,
but through them. So they have panels of estate agents.
Yes.
You know, so if you want to sell your house, they come to you to say, okay, fine, you can't afford it. It would be more beneficial for you
to sell it yourself.
To sell it through, to sell it yourself without them involved. That's first price. But you can also sell it yourself with the bank actually acting as your agent.
Okay.
Which means that the bank appoints maybe 5, 6, 7 agents to market the property for you.
Okay.
You are the one who agrees on a selling price that you want to sell it for.
Right.
All the offers are taken to you.
Okay.
To say, listen, we've got so many offers. These are the amounts. You are the one who decides whether you want to go for it or not. And with the estate agents, there's that fee. Right. That percentage that they charge. It's much lower than what it would be charged in a private sale. Okay. You know, so that's also beneficial. Yeah, you've got options when it comes to that. Or you can just settle your arrears on the day of the sale. If your sale is at 11, if the auction is at 11 and by some miracle you get money, you pay at 10:55, that sale is cancelled. Wow. As well. So you have options with your home loan.
Wow, that's actually quite interesting that there are these options that we may not have known about and that nobody's going to educate you on this stuff. You need to actually go and speak to people, go and speak to the bank that you owe money to. Then you will hear about these other options that are at your disposal before it's too late, right?
Yeah, it boils down to what we always said in this discussion. Contact your creditor.
Communicate with your creditor. They are human like you. Yeah. And you're not the first person to owe them, right? Yeah. Brilliant. So let's go into car repossession. How long after a default would my car be repossessed?
So it's all similar. Okay. So all credit agreements, it's all collections, debt collectors, 90 days. With cars though, it's not a Section 129 notice. It's a Section 127, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. In terms of the National Credit Act. Okay. But it's also a demand, a formal demand and then they institute legal action. The difference with cars is that a car is a depreciating asset.
Correct.
And if you know that you are being chased, you can drive the car to wherever. You can hide it wherever, right?
Yeah, because it's a movable.
Yeah, it's a movable
Yes.
asset. So what generally banks do when they trying to recover the vehicle, in their summons, they put in their prayer or their relief that they seek is for the cancellation of the agreement and the return of the vehicle.
Okay.
So just as with the bank, when the order is granted, you now have the ability to sell the house. When the order is granted with the car, you can take the vehicle.
Okay.
So that's why there are stories of cars being followed on the freeway, being stopped. Those are agents who work on behalf of the bank because there would be an order granted and they can take the vehicle anywhere.
Okay.
Dropping your kids off at school.
Then they say thank you.
They are here. They show you the documents. They make you sign that it is you, etc.
Okay.
And they take the vehicle to store it.
Okay.
And then the legal process would still continue, but the vehicle would be in storage, and then it will be sold at auction.
And then, but it's still the same situation as the house where it will be sold at the value it would have been at that point.
No. So the car is totally different. A car is sold for, it depends on how much, what the highest bid for it is.
Okay.
Right. Remember, the only reason the house is sold, there's a value that is put on the house. Firstly, because it is a primary residence of an individual. It is a big asset.
Correct.
And you have to sell it closer to its value. The value of a vehicle is constantly depreciating.
Correct.
You know, so that's where the difference is.
So they basically take what they get for a vehicle.
They take what they
at
get.
That option.
And that's why there's a lot of there's a big market where people even willingly opt to buy vehicles at an auction.
Okay.
Because they know that they may get it at a discount. And the unfortunate thing for you as a debtor is that if your car is worth 100,000 and it's sold for 30,000, you still owe. I mean, not worth. If you are owing 100,000 on your car, it's sold for 30,000. You are still owing.
You still owe that 70.
Odd, yeah.
Oh, that's hectic. So let's go into the health, your credit health, right? Credit rating, essentially. We talked earlier about your credit rating getting affected. What is a credit rating? How can I keep my credit rating healthy? And what are the benefits of a good credit rating?
So a credit rating is it's basically the assessment of your ability to maintain your financial obligations.
Okay.
You know, how to keep it healthy. That is the one way to keep it healthy is to pay on time, as we had previously discussed.
Right.
Is to avoid maxing out your credit.
Okay.
So with credit cards and stuff, if you have a 30,000 limit, you don't need to use 30,000.
Okay.
You know, because that also adds now to your repayment, what you will be paying back. So, and also, if with credit cards, the most important thing is that if you take out 5,000 in your credit card, you are, in terms of your agreement, you pay 200 Rand a month. But try by all means to sort of pay as much as you can. It's not possible, but if possible, pay that 5,000 Rand back that following month, or double or triple, pay 1,000 Rand.
Okay.
Pay, you know, that's how your credit card is maintained at a good rating.
Okay.
And then the benefits, I think you asked me about the benefits. It's bargaining power, borrowing power.
Okay.
And it's your reduced interest rates. And let me give you one example. When you're buying a car, generally the dealership puts your application through different financial institutions. If your credit rating is not the best, or is not good, not healthy, 4 may decline you, 1 may approve you. The one that approves you, it's a high interest rate.
Yeah.
You're not happy with the installment, but you want the car. You don't have an option but to go with them. If you have a healthy credit record, dealership puts it through 5, 5 institutions, all 5 accept you. Different interest rates, different installments. You now have the freedom to pick and choose
Got
who
choice.
you are going. Yeah.
Yes.
And the nice thing is that if your primary banker, the bank that where your salary is received, your bank that where your bond is paid, is not giving you the best option, you go to that bank to say, well, Bank X is giving me a much better option than you. All my products are with you.
Can you
do something? If you don't do something, I'm taking all my products to Bank X.
Okay.
So that's where the
So
power
you've got
comes
the
in.
bargaining
You've
power,
got the power.
once
Yeah.
you have that, instead of you just settling for whatever they decide to give you as institutions. Wow. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for that level of information. It has been really, really informative. So guys, I really hope that you have learned a lot today. And please, if you have questions, if you have comments about your experiences, by all means, go ahead and put it on our chat. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and on TikTok at The Real Mamolao. That has been the subject of credit rating today. I hope you learned something from Luvu Yosiko. Goodbye.
Goodbye.